Hey guys, I hope you're hungry. Welcome back to Full Incense. My name is Jericho, and today I'm joined by the Iceman to continue our discussions of the Star Wars movies.
Hello. I'm gonna piss a lot of you off today.
Yes, so.
Intentionally.
But it'll happen. So we've already gone through the prequel movies, episodes 1, 2, and 3. So here we are at episode 4, and today the Iceman is going to explain to you why episode 4 is worse than episode 3.
It is my least favorite one out of all 7.
Oh.
How cool is it that we can say 7 though right now?
Oh my god. It's finally a septilogy, just as George Lucas prophesied.
That'll cost you.
Yeah.
That's George Lucas' voice, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, they must have known because it's such a perfect representation of it. What else could it be?
Is that the real George Lucas on the show?
Is he on the call?
How'd they get him?
That's quite a get. Why does this video have 4 views?
So yeah, episode 4. Least favorite one.
So why? Why is it your least favorite?
Well, alright, here's the thing. During its time, it was probably the coolest thing ever. Just there's nothing else that existed like it. And I'm talking about just as a movie, not from a story point.
Right.
Just from a movie standpoint. It's not a very good movie today. Like, it doesn't stack up. It does not stand up to today's movies. I showed it to my to my brother, who had never ever seen Star Wars in his life, and we started with 4. I wanted to start with 1 and have him watch 1 through 7, but he wanted to watch it the way they were released.
Mm-hmm.
And then he kind of helped me realize, he's like, I can see why people would love them because of nostalgia, and like at the time they were the coolest thing ever, but they don't stack up today at all. I think parts of it are kind of weird, like in the beginning when they're with all the creepy droids, the 3PO and R2 when they get taken in by the Jawas.
On the Sandcrawler, yes.
I am really criminalizing myself right now.
No, it's interesting though. I like that because I disagree, of course, but I like that we can have more of a, because we both really love the rest, so it's nice to be able to have more of a debate than discussion. But please continue.
The CGI has been, well, actually I don't think it was even called CGI when it was originally. The special effects are definitely better now that they've been redone, but I think that pisses a lot of people off too. So I am happy that he did that. Battles and such, they aren't just pieces of cardboard on string against a curtain. And I don't know, I feel like just not much happens in it either.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, this is again, I repeat, this is just from a movie standpoint. I actually think the story of it, like it's incredible seeing this kind of story told in essentially, it's not sci-fi, but in a sci-fi setting.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's the archetypal fantasy story. The farm boy goes off to fight a battle against an evil lord with the help of a wizard and a pirate to save a princess.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how cool!
Yeah, and it is interesting to me that episode 7 is among your favorites, if not your very favorite, when it has basically the exact same story.
Well, here's the thing. It has the same story, which, of course, I love about episode 4, but it's made with like today's technology, today's story writing.
Mm-hmm.
And not that modern necessarily means better, but in my opinion, in this case, it does.
I really I love episode 4, but there's a lot of truth to what you say, and a lot of it I agree with. For example, a lot of the effects are very aged now, and I know that Star Wars fans that are in their 40s or whatever, that grew up seeing the original cuts in the theaters, they have a really strong nostalgia for it, just like we do for the prequels and the special editions.
Yes.
Even that I think has blinded them. And when they go back and touch up scenes and clean up, like even there's a really popular cut of the original trilogies called the despecialized editions, which basically went and did all the cleaning up of the visuals, like making it seem like, if you watch the original special editions, they had like a little featurette at the beginning where they talked about the changes they did, and some of it was just to make it like, because it was all on regular film, like it degrades over time. It was just to make it look better. And even on these despecialized editions, which a lot of the old school fans really love, they still do a lot of that cleanup work. So to me, I really dislike it when fans are so picky and choosy about what gets changed and what not, when none of it is theirs to begin with. So I think that everybody can agree that some of the stuff in episode 4, especially the very first original 1977 cut, don't look that good anymore. And as spectacular as they were for the time, blowing up model train sets for the Death Star doesn't compare to how it could look nowadays.
Yes.
But
that's kind of the point I was trying to make. Sorry if I didn't come out very clear.
No, and I
take anybody who loves Star Wars and pretend like erase that from their memory completely. They don't know anything about it, and you sit them down and you show them the original cut of Star Wars Episode 4. I don't think as many of them would like it. Like today. Today. You know what I mean?
I really agree. I really don't even think that's arguable. Or like even show them episode 4 and episode 7 side by side and say, which one did you enjoy more? Without anything else. They don't know who Darth Vader is. They don't know anything else about it. Which one they think is the better movie. And I think a lot would prefer how it looks and feels nowadays. And maybe that's just an indictment of the modern movie audience, but I don't know. I don't think that's the case.
I don't know.
But that being said, it's still the best. It still has some of the best moments in the entire franchise. Han is at his best in this movie, to me.
Yes, I think so too.
I prefer him. Episode 5, he has such great back and forth with Leia, but I prefer him just being the smuggler, scoundrel, pirate who
the scoundrel, the cocky. Like the first thing you hear him say is, "Han Solo, Captain of the Millennium Falcon." Like what?
Like, of course you've heard of it.
What a jerk.
Yeah. Yes.
Is that how you introduce yourself to everyone?
But
I love it.
And I really like Alec Guinness's Obi-Wan and his duel with Anakin. But a lot of people that really like that duel, it just grows in its strength from how good everything was in episodes 1 through 3. Like it builds upon that. So I don't know. Luke is good. Well, Luke is sort of annoying in this movie, but it's on purpose because he's supposed to be like an immature, untrained farm boy that grows into the hero. Episode 4 lays the groundwork for everything that is to come in terms of music and the story and the characters and just literally building the Star Wars universe. But it definitely
had my favorite moment in the entire saga. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh no, go ahead.
But just you talking about the music reminded me of this when Luke is looking at the sunset, and we hear the binary sunset music for the first time. Just when he's looking off into the sunset, we hear that music. Just every single time I see it, just chills. Sometimes tears in my eyes. Every single time.
I agree. It's my
absolute favorite moment.
It's my very favorite moment too. I think. I don't know. Episode 4 to me is one of the hardest to talk about because I feel very in the middle about it because it's directly in the center. I like 5, 6, and 3 better, and 1, 2, and 7 worse. So it's hard for me to really have have a strong voice about it when I definitely see it as having lots of strengths and lots of weaknesses. But I do say that in some ways it has the strongest, truest story, where it's very, very simple of Luke. He gets sent on this very, very classic hero's journey. You know, the denial of the call. You know, like you said, the archetypal characters of the wizard and the princess and all the rest of it, and then finally accepting his destiny and destroying the Death Star. Like, if it is easily the strongest. If no other Star Wars movie existed but one, Episode 4 would be the best. All the other movies depend on each other far more than Episode 4 does, and there's something to be said for that.
That's absolutely true. Absolutely.
But that's not the world we live in, because by the grace of God, there are 7 Star Wars movies, so that's not our only requirement. I do think that people are blinded by nostalgia for Episode 4 and that it's not as good. And whenever I see like arguments online, the conversation is always what's better, 4 or 5. And I really don't agree. I don't really see it as being that far up there.
Oh, as the best one in the
right.
series? Yeah. I feel like, well, I mean, you know how I feel, definitely, but that's an interesting argument that people have. Like, that actually wouldn't even cross my mind, that argument, but I know that I'm weird.
I mean, I really love 5. 5 is among my favorites, if not my very favorite, but I think 6 is better than 4, hands down. I've never thought otherwise.
Me too.
Me too. And 4, especially on like the second or third 100 viewing, like we are on, it has its problems. The pacing is kind of weird. I think it's strange that they have Obi-Wan's death, and I guess that's supposed to be, if we were talking about like a very formulaic movie structure, which this movie does follow, and it's not a bad thing. Like that's the end of Act 2 is Obi-Wan's death, because that's when the main character, the protagonist Luke, is at his lowest point. But then it kind of stops dead for a while. It's tough for it to me, it should continue to build after that. And when you look at Episode 7, where I would say Han's death is the mirror of Obi-Wan's death, even though it's slightly different in the structure. Han's death is in the middle of everything else that's crazy happening in Episode 7, and it continues to build after that towards the end of the movie. In Episode 4, after Obi-Wan's death, it stops cold for a while, and then we have the TIE Fighter battle, and then it slows down again, and then we finally have the Death Star and the conclusion of the movie. Ben dies halfway through Episode 4, and I think that it makes for an uneven second half of the movie, at least emotionally. Because like we see Luke, you know, is so distraught over the loss of his mentor, even though like they hardly had much time to mentor. And then he's just like, okay, and he's cheering and whooping and shooting down TIE fighters, like he moves past it, and then I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
The movie tells us how to feel about our reactions to Ben, because I don't think it did enough. I think it should have happened later in the movie, and the things should have been restructured somewhat. But I mean, that being said, who am I? Like I don't know. It is weird to talk about Episode 4 in such a negative way, especially after being so positive about like Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. But I honestly do think that people that see it through such rose-tinted glasses, and I, of course, am not one to talk about nostalgia. Like, I'll defend to the death, like Batman the Animated Series, or the early Harry Potter movies, or other things from my childhood that other people say like, oh, like, or like some old video games that I know are crap and terrible, but I still love and replay again and again just because they were important to me as a kid. I understand the power of nostalgia goggles and rose-colored glasses and all the rest of it, but I do think, even so, people need to take a step back when they look at Episode 4 as a movie and remember, you know, how far we've come in the medium, and if it still is as good as you really think it is.
I think when you mention your stuff that you're nostalgic for, I think you can also you are nostalgic for that, and I have the same things for myself as well. Like, we can step back, like you said, step back and at least see that, like, there has been other stuff since then, and that it's okay if people like that stuff better.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. Like, for example, I just mentioned Batman the Animated Series is my favorite TV show of all time. That'll never change. There's no possible show I could ever like better, I don't think. But my wife really likes Batman Beyond, which was its successor, about an older Bruce Wayne teaching a new heir to the Batman cowl. And I really like Batman Beyond too. I also think it's great. I will never agree that it's better, but I can still appreciate it for what it is, and I don't like get mad or like think like how dare you for liking something just because it came better, because I don't think any Star Wars movie actively worked against what episode 4 set out to build. And that's the difference. If you have like a remake that is just for a remake's sake and is like a cash-in and doesn't care and doesn't have respect for the original, that's one thing. But when you have a respectful, thoughtful continuation of the saga with the same creators, the same teams, following the path that was set down by the original, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And people that think otherwise are just blind and are just robbing themselves of some great experiences across all sorts of mediums, be it video games, TV. Oh, I just fell down a hole. Be it video games, TV, movies, what have you.
Well said.
Do you have any closing thoughts on episode 4? This has been shorter than our other discussions, but like I said, I don't really have a dog in this fight so much because it's just a Star Wars movie to me. So I love it more than any other movie because it's a Star Wars movie, but it's not
right.
It's not, the crown jewel.
That's what I was gonna say. I mean, it's still Star Wars, and I still love it more than the majority of movies that I've seen, and more than the majority of movies that I already do love. It's Star Wars, so who cares?
Right, exactly. And I wish more people had that opinion, because that's the only really healthy way to look at movies, is that if it's Star Wars, you just give it a free pass.
Yep.
Okay, so I suppose that'll wrap it up for us today. That was episode 4. We'll be back soon with episode 5. I'm trying not to have these directly in a row. Like every 2 or 3 war stories, we'll be back to discuss the next Star Wars movie. So Empire Strikes Back is coming up, and both of us really love it. So I think that'll be a really good episode. Episode 5, like I mentioned in this episode of the show, might be my very favorite. So we'll see my reasoning why in that episode. So if you're not furious at us for having anything negative to say about episode 4, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss anything. War stories are every Tuesday and Thursday, but I have something else coming every single day. Thanks as always to the Iceman for joining me, and we'll see you guys soon. I don't know about you, but we're full.